I want to welcome all of you to this symposium. And the objective of the symposium is to inform you of, or for you to get a greater understanding and appreciation of the labor laws of St. Kitts and Nevis and the ILO standards which govern the establishment of those laws, and to help all of us to resolve any worker-related issues in the workplace. The symposium will present those situations that are unavoidable and to resolve those that continue to challenge our organizations from time to time. It will also provide a forum for you to establish or to improve your relationship with the Department of Labor for a more harmonious working relationship and to ensure industrial peace in the workplace, but also in St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm a firm believer that if there is a level of harmony in the workplace and in each individual workplace or work situation, then the entire economic environment of St. Kitts and Nevis will be a place in which there will be harmony, and that it would lead to less time out, less loss of hours for productivity, and therefore benefit all the units, all the business places, and the country as a whole. As practitioners, human resource managers in the different departments of your different businesses, your role is a critical one. You heard from Mr. Webb that it is the employees, the workers, the human element, which is in fact the most important part of any organization. Some people like to think it's the IT, the computers. But as I've said somewhere, maybe in this very room, a computer will only do what the humans tell it to do. And we therefore need that human element. The role of yourselves as human resource professionals is to ensure that your company's most important asset, its human capital, is being nurtured and supported through the creation and the management of programs, policies, and procedures to govern the operations and the functions in your place of work. We believe that the fostering of a positive outlook in the workplace could make a great difference to the employer-worker relations and have a positive impact on the bottom line and on the productivity of your businesses. The research clearly supports the view that workers who are subject to effective human resource management are able to more effectively and be more productive to contribute to the profitability and the overall direction and advancement of their place of work. And this, as a government, is important to us, and it could make a significant difference to the economic growth and development as the years go by. In the expanded role of today's human resource management teams, more focus must be given to adding value to the effective utilization of workers and ensuring that workers' programs are impacting the business in a positive and measurable way. Work-based intervention programs can be designed to assist workers in resolving personal problems that may be adversely affecting their performance in the workplace. The employee's relationship with his or her workers, I believe, must be nurtured and taken care of in order to benefit not just the workers, but will have a mutually satisfying benefit for the employers as well. And this is where the human resource management comes in, because as the general manager or the financial controller, they've got their specific, and I almost said narrow roles. The key which links all of that is the human resource management department. And this is where I think we want to say to all of you and to encourage you to ensure that your relationship is defined by mutual respect, appreciation, and trust between the human resource management department and team and the workers in the different units of the enterprise and their teams. It is for us necessary in the Department of Labor that we seek through our timely intervention, an ongoing intervention and interaction with the Human Resource Department or the general management of any place of work and with the workers in those places of work, that we do so to minimize, if not completely eliminate, any friction, any conflicts which might impact negatively on the place of work and the businesses. One of the most important principles is for employers, that is, employers to treat workers with respect and to deal with everyone in a fair and transparent manner to foster good relationships. The policy and the conditions of work will be spelled out by yourselves in discussion with your general manager and the company policy. And I want to suggest that the workers need to understand and be advised of those general policies to guide their functions within the place of work. I spoke of there being transparency. We do not believe that any rule which governs the conditions of employment in the workplace of a worker should be a secret. I prefer, there are two ways of disseminating information for transparency. One is to provide it in the form of a booklet, a written form. But I want to look at the other aspect of communication, because communication and exchange of views, and I am assuming that in the workplace that there is, or there are provisions for the exchange of views in the workplace. I'm assuming that. I hope I'm not wrong. But the other way, yes, you have a handbook. Yes, you put up notices on the board. But I want to make a suggestion that the personal interaction, having a discussion and explanation of those rules, and to get a feedback and understanding from the workers could be as effective, if not more effective, and more immediate than having a handbook which you say, there's a handbook, go and read it. This is your homework, or this is your whatever work. I believe the introduction to the workplace should be done not through a handbook, but through a face-to-face interaction. And I think there will be more immediate acceptance and understanding of what is expected. And then there could be immediate reaction or interaction which would help to resolve any matters which might be thorny, which might be more difficult to comprehend from the reading. The other aspect of what we want this symposium to accomplish is there will be benefits where that respect mutual respect, respect from the workers for the employer, respect of the workers from the employers, will have greater benefits and will also help to cultivate within the establishment a reputation of place of employment which deals with people in a manner which makes them feel that they are important. There's no alternative to that. If people feel that they're important, then they are willing to give more and go above and beyond the call of duty. And this way of dealing with your workers is priceless. You can't pay for loyalty. Loyalty doesn't come with a price tag, but it can add to your profitability and your productivity. We speak in the workplace of fairness, that the arrangement between employers and workers must be fair. When we speak of fairness, we are referring to each worker acting appropriately, but also expecting that the employer or the manager will also act appropriately. I don't know if that is too difficult to accept, but that deals with the matter of mutuality. I feel good about you, you feel good about me, you feel good about what I'm doing, I feel good about how you're dealing with what I'm doing. And it eliminates, it takes away some of the tension which could hamper the workplace. As human resource practitioners, I know that you face challenges on a regular basis. In the Ministry of Labor, we face challenges. But our approach has been that we seek to resolve those challenges. The PS and myself and the Commissioner, wherever possible and wherever necessary, we seek to discuss matters and we try to find a roadmap, a way forward. How do we deal with these issues? Will you or will ourselves be always able to resolve or to deal with every challenge in a satisfactory way or way satisfactory to everybody? Not always. Because we're dealing with human beings. We're dealing with people with different temperaments, people coming from different backgrounds. One of the things I've always said to myself and said to any staff which I've had the opportunity to manage, one never knows what are the circumstances which affect someone in their domestic lives, in the community. And sometimes people bring their domestic conflicts into the workplace. Is that wise? No. So we have to find a way, workers, we have to find a way of saying to ourselves that if I have a matter at my home, when I hit the door of the workplace, that matter remains outside. No matter how serious it is, no matter how impacting it is, because to bring it into the workplace increases the tension within the workplace. Human resource managers will have to be, and it's a word I like, have to be sensitive, have to use the virtue of being compassionate. Try to understand that there may be issues which are beyond the workplace and see how that could be done. However, our admonition is that those things which are external to the workplace should, as far as possible, be left outside of the workplace so that it does not have any negative impact on the workplace and therefore stretches the resources of the human resource management, because they will have to deal with it. So we know from the Ministry of Labor, because we have to deal with conflict resolution all the time, that conflict is inevitable. And I'm sure you will agree with me that once you're dealing with somebody else, if you're dealing with yourself, you have conflict nevertheless. You go through trauma, you're knocking things around in your mind, you're not happy with the way you look, you're not happy with the way you said something or the way you did something. So you have that personal conflict. So every time you add another person or unit to that arrangement, it then compounds the possibility of having conflict. Therefore, we are arguing that we know that conflicts are inevitable. It is how we respond to the conflict, which resides within ourselves or resides between or among ourselves, that can make the matter either palatable, resolvable, beneficial, or negative. And I think the symposium will seek to show you or discuss among yourselves how you can deal with conflict, or how you deal with conflicts, how other people deal with conflicts in the workplace, and then come to a position which is mutually acceptable as a benchmark or standard for dealing with challenges, conflicts within the workplace. Mismanaged and unresolved conflict can have very far-reaching negative consequences. And we in the Ministry of Labor and the Department of Labor, we see that coming with, you have termination, you have resignation, you have flare-ups of temper, you have disagreements and exchange of words, you have disrespectful things being said. Will they happen? They may happen, they could happen, but we would want to use this symposium to give you tools of dealing with those matters. We don't want always to be paying out severance money. We don't want always to be paying out long service gratuity after 10 years. I want long service gratuity to be paid when people have done 20 and 25 years and when they reach the age of retirement. That is what we want. Because for those of us who don't know, long service gratuity payments are a call on the taxpayers. And we, and I, will speak for myself, because I've said this, I prefer to see people working, getting a steady income, rather than saying, well, I'm going to go and claim my long service gratuity and get a lump sum, and then scrambling somewhere to get a job, and then want to know what has happened to the lump sum which they received, because it has a way of disappearing very quickly. Because if you keep dipping out of a bucket and nothing goes into it, after a while the bucket, and there's also something called evaporation, which is different from dipping out. Some things keep disappearing because you have unforeseen costs, you have unforeseen incidents, you have children, they don't always stay healthy, so you have those issues to deal with. And I want our workers, and I would want also the human resource managers to speak to their workers in those terms. Help us to help them to help you. And there's another side to that as well. Every time someone with experience leaves, you then have to do some other training. You have to find someone to fill that hole. Unless the person has reached retirement age, I think to hold on to your good workers, to whatever good policies you have, will be down to the benefit of the workplace. So here we feel that conflicts you should seek to resolve conflicts, but do so within the terms of an accordance with the law, to maintain to the mutual benefit of all parties. And I think that will make a big difference to the workplace and to the workers and yourselves. So the Department of Labor, we are here to provide you with the support to resolve your employer-worker conflicts And when you see the officers from the Labor Department come, we're not coming to look for trouble. We're coming to help to avert any conflicts. We're there to help. So if there's any issue which you feel you need help with in respect of the interpretation of the law or the application of the law, I would suggest that you, before anything happens, you get yourselves acquainted with the provisions of the law by having ongoing dialogue with the permanent secretary, the commissioner, or officers within the Department of Labor. In August of this year, and you can mark your calendar, there's no specific date yet, but August, you can circle all of August. So you don't, and just, except for Culturama. Culturama is a time for you to just lay yourself down and have fun and go to the beach and so on. But in August, the ministry will hold a workshop for businesses under the theme, quote unquote, mediation, an approach to resolving workplace issues. Because that is something which is very high on our agenda in the Ministry of Labor, that we need to resolve and keep minimum, if we cannot totally eliminate those issues. In today's society, where people are very litigious, they want to go to court if you look at them too hard, we must have regard to the problems faced in the workplace. And there are several things that sometimes challenge the ability of some workers to give their best to their employees, to their employers. But you must also ensure that your workplace is stigma-free. And there is no incidence of discrimination in whatever form, whether it's gender discrimination or racial discrimination or ethnic or religious discrimination. Those matters should not exist because they create difficulties. And we remember that we do not have an homogeneous society. We have a society which is comprised of people of different races, different beliefs, and so on. But I do believe that once they get into the workplace and it's explained to them that this is the culture of the workplace, and they accept to abide by the culture of the workplace, then workers, I expect that you will not want them to derogate and to create conflict based on anything that you may not feel that you would have been told. So declare, if you're an Adventist, declare it. If you're a person who don't want to work with alcohol, declare it. These are things which you must conscientiously declare, and therefore, and then also seek to get the understanding of the human resource department or the employer, so that they can have, again, that sensitivity, so that they don't object, they don't offend and create difficulties to your conscience. What I say to people, some people say, well, I'm an Adventist and I have to work on a Saturday. And I don't want to do that. I'm not going to quote the biblical thing about the donkey in the pit. You can read that for yourself and interpret it how you like. But when I say to people, if you know you have that conscientious objection, discuss with your human resource person, discuss with a colleague who may want to worship on a Sunday, and arrange for an exchange. So if my work schedule says I have to work as an Adventist on a Saturday and I need to have a break conscientiously, get a friend and say, listen, okay, can you work for me tomorrow or whichever day it is, and I will work for you, fit in for you. If the workplace allows it, I get sometimes a rigidity in management to accommodate persons who have other social engagements, not social engagements, conscientious engagements. Because a social engagement really ought to be taking place in your after hours or on your day off, unless you can get the approval of your employer, your human resource department. So we want to continue to have that kind of harmony in the workplace. And I said we want the workplace to be stigma-free, to have no incidents of discrimination against workers or against employers. And it is important as human resource managers and managers generally and supervisors to have and employ good listening skills. How many times people come to you and you don't want to listen because you're the boss? You have to sometimes just say, I am not the boss right now, I'm a listener. Speak. Your boss or your servant hears. Listen. The more you listen, the more you learn, the more you know, the more you can deal with the issue at hand. So employing good listening skills with your engaged workers, you can gain important insights into what your workers are going through and also lead or direct them to providing more and more for you as the employer. The last thing I'm going to look at is remuneration. The government has its minimum wage policy, but the minimum wage is only a guide. It's only a guide. But the guide is that you can't pay below the minimum wage legally. Otherwise, you could be prosecuted for paying someone less than the minimum wage. And it is a minimum wage per hour or, per hour, because then you add up the hours. There are some questions being raised which we have to address in terms of overtime, time and a half, and so on. But that is something which we are seeking to resolve within the new labor code, because we are now coming to a position in our economic development where there are changes in respect of terms of engagement, because if we are service industry, we've come out of the agrarian economy where people are working in the fields and so on from sun up to whenever, and from Monday to Friday, and so on. We have to get, and we are dealing very closely, PS and Commissioner and the Tripartite Committee, with the representatives of workers, with the representatives of employers, to get a way forward on this and to get a mutually accepted position for the new service economy. So in terms of pay, the minimum wage only sets just what it says, the minimum wage payable per hour. Is the minimum wage a sufficient wage for people to live by? That is a matter of discussion which will go on forever and ever. Amen. So we won't get into that at this point. The key for us is that employers are required to pay a fair wage for the labor of their workers. And on the other hand, workers are expected to give a fair day's work for the wage which they receive. However, we are saying to both sides, it doesn't mean that you skimp, you give minimum. It doesn't mean that you just work to rule and I'm doing nothing more. I'm just doing this because I only get in that. My contrary suggestion, a willing worker or worker who appears to the employer to be willing to do above and beyond and to give more work, more efficient work, is more likely to get an increase or promotion. And that is how we have to sell this thing. You know, sometimes we sit and we're afraid to talk about promotion and to talk about and to encourage people. I think encouragement helps workers to want to apply themselves more. If at the end of it they know, well, boy, once I do work, I work efficient, somebody's watching me, somebody's judging me, somebody's evaluating my work. And if I work well as a waiter, as a store clerk, as a supervisor, remember there's still somebody above you who can evaluate your work and give remuneration. And that is how I want us to see what we are doing as human resource persons in the labor market environment of St. Kitts and Nevis, and how our workers respond to that. So I therefore, I think I have gone on perhaps a bit longer than I anticipated, but I will end in a little bit. I therefore want to encourage you as human resource managers and your team to keep updated with the labor laws and disseminate to your workers the information which they need to know to enable them to perform their duties effectively to the benefit of your company. I want to make a suggestion which stems from what I had said earlier, and that is, if workers are conscientious and their productivity levels are good and go above expectation or targets, that there should be consideration for recommendation for them to have remuneration. I like the alliteration there. For them to get something more. It is not, as I said, I don't remember where I said it somewhere, but it is not a command. It is something which is good for business. If someone is working and helping to make the well fill up and overflow, then the overflow should come back to the persons who help to make the well overflow. Sounds like a riddle, but it's not so difficult to understand. I want, last of all, to encourage you as human resource management persons and your team in your places of work to not be afraid to deal with the Ministry of Labor through the Permanent Secretary or the Department of Labor through the Commissioner or anyone. We have tried to give some directive on how our officers should function in their relation to yourselves in the private sector as employers and also with employees in the private sector. And I feel if we carry on this good working relations and we can establish a mutually beneficial and respectful relationship, that St. Kitts and Nevis could become a model country in terms of providing labor for the employment in our countries and also for employers hiring persons in our countries. I want to thank you for accepting the invitation of the Ministry of Labor to be part of the symposium. And I hope that we have set a parameter within which we can discuss things today. Specific things may vary, but the overall objective is to have a better working relation within the place of work on all sides, workers, employers, and at the end of it, there could only be positive benefits for everybody. Thank you very much, and God bless you.